Hey, John here. Here's lick of the day number 163. This is an Aeolian sweep and tap lick. As usual, I'm going to play it once slowly and then break it down. During the breakdown, I'm going to share some practice advice. You can apply to this lick and pretty much anything else you're practicing. And if you want the tabs, you have a link in the description below. And we're going to start here on the 8th fret of the A string. Alright, so this one is an A minor, Aeolian, and it's played over a backing track made by Tim, and that's his YouTube channel. I'm going to link it down below as well, the actual track, so you can try it out yourself. I might not do more of these, or I might do all of these going forward. I don't know yet. It just depends on my mood and all that stuff. Because I do this every day, so it has to be fairly quick. So, but just let me know if you think it's a good thing or a bad thing. But I might mix it up, or might just keep doing backing tracks. Who knows? But I really enjoy his backing tracks though. So backing tracks by Tim, you have a link down below in the description as well. And no, I'm not getting paid by him or anything like that. He's just a good dude and makes awesome backing tracks. All right, so the progression here, basically it goes from A minor, that section before, and then I come in on the F chord, which is the flat 6 chord of the key. And if that sounds confusing, it just means that a chord progression is built from basically building triads at least from each scale note, and that's where chords come from. And so if I say, oh, it's a 1, flat 6, blah 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 progression, means it's the progression built from the 1, so we get an A minor, and then the flat 6, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6 will be F. And this is like the quintessential progression in any kind of hard rock and metal. So it's a very useful lick in that sense. And some people will call this like, oh, it's Lydian, because now you know when you play the A minor scale / C major scale over this F chord, it's going to give you a Lydian feel. But I don't feel that's correct, because you still hear A as the 1 chord, right? But it's still a very useful thing to know what you're doing here. But I wouldn't necessarily say that, I wouldn't call this a Lydian lick in that sense. Even though you could actually use this as a Lydian lick as well. So if you have like a F Lydian backing track, you could apply this lick as well. So I don't want to confuse you here, but the most important thing when you think about modes is, all right, so what chord will feel like home when I get to it? And in this progression, we didn't actually have a G in the progression, but A is the home. So that's how your ear is gonna ultimately interpret all these notes. So I'm not gonna harp on about that anymore. You just try it out in different contexts, and I think you'll see what I mean. So we start here with this F major 7 arpeggio, which is basically the same as an A minor arpeggio. It's just that we start on the F here instead of the E. So we get 8, 12 on the A string, 10 on the D string, 9 on the G string, 10 on the B string, 8 and 12 on the E string. And the pattern I'm doing here is just down, hammer, down, 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 up, pull off, up, 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 up. And then from here, I move up. So I get this note doubled, but it still sounds good to me, so I didn't really mind. So, and the second arpeggio here is an A minor 7. So we got 12, 15, 14, 12, 13, 12, 15. Pick the same way, down, hammer, down, 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 up, pull off, up, 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 up. And again, you get that motion, right? So you want to try to get that as clean as you can. And the last one here, if you look in the notation, I notated these as groups of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But this one is a group of 7. And, you know, when I play it, it's not exactly that subdivided, but it's definitely faster though. But it's just a feel thing, and I don't really... I grew up listening to Key Marcello, Yngwie, a lot of these players that float around timing-wise a lot. And I kind of like that sound more than when everything is like super subdivided and, you know, everything has to be on the grid. But that's just my personal preference, and you can absolutely play this thing, you know, in an even tighter way if you want. So I wouldn't get too hung up on that stuff. But I notated the last arpeggio here, the C major 7 arpeggio. It's going to be the same shape as we have here, as we had down here, just from the 15th fret. And the only difference here is that we're going to add a tap here. So again, if you look at the previous video, I go through what I call the anchoring sort of technique, where I make sure that I find a note in the left hand where I'm trying to use as an anchor to know when to move my right hand when I'm practicing this slowly, right? So I'm not waiting here for too long and then, you know, have to move really quickly. But I explained that more thoroughly in the previous video. And technically, I'm actually playing a C major 9th arpeggio here, because I'm adding the 9th, but it's just notes out of the scale. So, and depending if you play this over, you know, the 1 chord, the flat 6 chord, flat 7 chord, whatever, it's just gonna give you different nuances. So I would just highly suggest that you try that. So take any of these arpeggios, just repeat them, and maybe record yourself just playing the arpeggio, even easier I think, and then just play different chords under it from the key, and then you can see like, oh, I actually really like you know, playing the C major 7 chord here over this chord, and then you can really form your own opinion what you like the sound of the best, and that's the most important thing. It doesn't really matter what I like or anyone else, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's gonna listen to you play more than anyone else in the whole world. So make sure that whatever you do, you actually like the sound of. So practice-wise then, well, it's not that much more to say than I basically covered it in the previous video. It's quite of a similar thing going between arpeggios and adding tapping. But one thing that always works really well is to take the shapes here and then move them up and down the fretboard chromatically. And making sure that when you do that, that you don't do it sloppily. You find a tempo, whatever tempo that might be, that you can actually do this consistently. So, and that's what I think where moving it up and down the fretboard also comes into play, because then you can be really like, all right, so I did a few, so maybe you think like it worked well here. Well, and then this one, I did not like that one. Okay, I'm gonna do that again. Okay, that's better. You keep going like that, and if you notice that you have to stop and redo frets all the time, well, you're most likely practicing at a faster tempo than you're able to do. And there's no point in doing that, because that will only lead to bad technique. So my number one rule for practicing anything technical, whenever I repeat something, I make sure that the tempo is you know, whatever tempo I need to control everything. The tension in my hands, meaning reducing it as much as possible, that everything sounds as perfect as possible, and things of that nature. And it's not about being, you know, sounding like a Guitar Pro file when you play, because I mean, then you could just record a Guitar Pro file, but it's about trying to get it as perfect as possible, and then when you just play music, our natural human imperfections will creep in and make it sound even better, I think. So, but if you let that human imperfection creep into your actual practice, then it might be a bit too human when you listen back to it. So try to be very strict when you practice anything technical, and I think you will be very happy with the results when you actually apply this to music.